Hi, I'm Lydia. Let's talk about books. Oh my god. That's a lot of books. Oh my god, my arms are not that strong. This is everything plus some more that I managed to read this month. So today I want to do my reading wrap up of everything that I managed to read in the month of August, and we've got a lot to get through, so let's get going. I think I want to do it from best to worst today, so I'm going to rank them from best to worst, and I already know. I'm looking through the pile to grab the one that was the best. Oh my god, it's right at the bottom. Sorry, that was just the pile collapsing. Harry the Ninth. I put off reading this for like a year and a half, like almost 2 years, because I read Gideon, loved it, but was very confused, and then I just heard so much about how Harry the Ninth is even more confusing, and in a way it is. The plot is so twisty, the perspectives are so strange, but oh my god, this book is so good. I literally read it in 2 days, and it's like over 500 pages. I was just completely obsessed. I really, really loved it. I really don't want to go into the plot because obviously it's the second in a series, but Gideon the Ninth and the Locked Tomb series in general is a kind of fantasy sci-fi set in space. And you're following these like kind of people from these 9 different planets or 10 different planets surrounding a sun, where necromancy is the magic that they use. And it is just really complex but really interesting, and oh my god, the plot in this one, it was making me feel everything. Like every single chapter ended with like some kind of cliffhanger or some kind of like intrigue or mystery or something, and it was just so good. I just ate it up so much. So personally, like Gideon, the first book, I loved her as a character more, but the plot in this one and the escalation means I love this one more. I gave Gideon the Ninth like 4 stars. This is a 5-star book for me. Next book I want to talk about is also tied for top place, but I don't have a physical copy because it is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. This is Brandon Sanderson's third secret project, and it was so beautiful. I loved this book, and this is really saying something because I loved Tress of the Emerald Sea, which was the first secret project, but this one's even better. I just loved the characters, I loved the story, I loved the conclusion, how it all ended. It was really, really beautiful. In this book, you're following 2 characters. You're following Yumi, and you're also following someone called the Nightmare Painter. Yumi is living in this quite traditional and quite strict kind of society, and she has to perform lots of rituals, and she's got kind of kept under like quite strict lock and key, but she kind of finds escape through her art, which is the art of stacking stones upon each other. And then you're also following the perspective of the Nightmare Painter, who goes out and protects his city just armed with his paintbrush. And it's this really beautiful romance fantasy story that's just, it's got a similar tone, I would say, to Tress of the Emerald Sea if you like that one, but I would say Tress is more kind of fairy tale adventure story, and this one is a bit more of a dramatic tone, but I just absolutely loved it, and it was so beautiful. So I'd really recommend, and it was a 5 stars for me. Next up, I discovered perhaps a newfound obsession because I read my first ever Moomin book, and I've obviously heard about Moomins for so long, but I've just never really known what they are about or kind of what they're like. But I read this one, and oh my god, they're so fun. They are literally bizarre. They're really sweet and kind of heartwarming, but also just like really, really out there and like quite insane. It's a really short, sweet story that I just read in an afternoon. It's got pictures in there, it's got some really sweet like illustrations in there, and that really added to the vibe of the story as well. Yeah, and I really loved it, and I'm just definitely going to pick up more Moomin books. So a lot of this month I actually really spent trying to continue series that I was already reading and try and like make some headway in some of these bigger fantasy series. So you've seen that already with finishing off Harrow, and I'm going to carry on reading the next one in that series as well next month. But I also read another one of the Discworld books I've been meaning to pick up for ages. So this is the third book, but it's the first book in like the witches kind of set of stories, and oh my god, it's my favourite so far. It was so good. I really liked the first 2 stories, but I think for me, just because the characters in these ones were so much better, like then I just like backed them so much more. I loved our 2 main characters. They were just so fun, and I loved the dynamic between them. But if you're not familiar with Discworld, basically it's this hugely long series that's like 40 plus books, and it's set in this world called Discworld. There's magic, there's adventure, there is so much humour and warmth and wit in these books, and I just absolutely love them, and I can't wait to carry on with the witches. I'm going to put all these next books in a bundle together, but I also carried on with reading Series of Unfortunate Events. So I read 4, 5 and 6 this month. And in terms of my ratings, 6 is definitely the best so far. I feel like the story just really kicked up a notch, and we really got kind of loads more background, and also the atmosphere in this one was really creepy and really weird. If you've read it, like the actual elevator that they're kind of surrounded, like the plot surrounds, is so creepy and like really odd, and it's really, really fun. And I like the other 2 as well, but this one's the best one yet, and I can't wait now to carry on with the rest of the series. It's actually really hard to rank these next ones because I've had so many good books this month. Like all of the ones I've talked about so far, and some of these next ones are like 4.5 stars. Like I really can't discern between them. But maybe my next one I want to talk about, my next favourite would be Thoughtown Hedge by T. Kingfisher. This is such a cute, sweet, creepy story, and I'm thinking that T. Kingfisher is going to be one of my new favourite authors. I also absolutely loved Nettle and Bone that I read by her, and that's a 5-star for me. This one I feel like it's harder to get a 5-star just because it's kind of such a short little book, but I really, really loved it. This is basically about a girl who is stolen from her family when she's a baby, and she's grown up in the land of the Fae, and she grows up quite happy and well loved by her kind of adopted family. But one day someone comes to her and says that they need her to go back to the human world and place a blessing on a newborn baby, and that's just like the beginning of this kind of plot. But what I love about T. Kingfisher's books are the characters. She always follows really unique and unusual characters that you just wouldn't think normally would be like likable or interesting, and I just really, really love them. I love Toadling in this, that's the main character, and also this like gentle knight character that she always seems to include, or at least she had one in Nettle and Bone as well that I really liked. And the other thing I love about her books are the blend of genres. This is a fantasy, it's a retelling, but it's also got kind of romance in there, and it's got this gothic, creepy horror vibe as well that I absolutely loved. I really, really love this one. I'm definitely going to pick up more of T. Kingfisher's books. So the next book I want to talk about is a contemporary fiction, and it is Bellies by Nicola Dinan. I picked this one up because my friend book club is doing this for this month. So my friend Tori picked this for our book club book, and I'm so glad that she did because I absolutely loved it. I gave this also a 4.5. This follows 2 characters, Tom and Ming, where they meet in university, and it just follows their lives as they're becoming young adults and kind of getting jobs and figuring out life. But it really focuses on gender and sexuality and self-expression, and also just trying to find your worth in this world and kind of exploring these close-knit, deep relationships between 2 people. And I just absolutely loved it. I really loved our 2 characters. I thought it was a great character study. People always compare things to Sally Rooney's books, but I think most of the time incorrectly. But this one, I could really, really see it. Not that anyone else has actually compared it to Sally Rooney, but I do feel like if you like Sally Rooney's books and you like that kind of slow character exploration, then I think you'll really enjoy this. And I gave it 4.5 stars. I really, really loved it. So next up is the non-fiction that I wanted to read this month, and I picked it up thinking it is a non-fiction, and it kind of is, but also it's such a strange book that is also kind of fiction as well, and it is When We Cease to Understand the World. And I gave this a 4 stars, or like maybe 4.25 on Storygraph. But I really, really love this book. It's so unique. I picked it up thinking it was going to be exploring kind of these great scientific achievements and these kind of great inventors in history, and it does do that. It's like different chapters, and it follows these big scientific kind of leaps forward, and also the people behind them who've discovered these things or figured it out kind of mathematically or in physics. Also, a lot of the book I think really talks a lot about the cost of this kind of discovery, on a personal level and also on a societal level. And what starts off as mainly a non-fiction book kind of devolves by the end to being quite steeped in fiction, and it's a really interesting way of telling these stories, and I personally really, really loved it. It's such a unique book, and because this book is talking about geniuses and also this kind of thin line between genius and madness, I thought that way of telling the story using non-fiction and also fiction blended together was such an interesting concept. So I'd really, really recommend this. But the next book I want to talk about is also in this kind of category of me trying to read more books that are long-running series that I need to finish off, and I did manage to finish off this series, and it is the series of the Tower of Babel. So it ends with the fall of Babel. This series starts off with Senlin Ascends, and I've said for a long time it's my favourite fantasy series, or one of my absolute favourites, and I do still say that. I hadn't finished this book and now I have. I do think it still is one of my favourite stories, but I don't know how to feel about this one. It's really, really difficult to say. Lots of people who I also know love this series were really disappointed in the end, in this last book. And I wasn't really disappointed, and I'm glad I'm not. I kind of put it off because I thought I was going to hate it. For literally the majority of the book, like 90% of this book, I was having a whale of a time. I was loving it. I love the characters, the story, the writing is so beautiful. It's one of the main reasons I love this book is it's got such a literary twist with the writing. That's my favourite thing in fantasy stories. It's similar to The Name of the Wind, which is one of my other favourite series. It's that really intricate and kind of wordy way of telling a story that I just really love for a fantasy story. And this has that as well. The writing is just the same. It's just beautiful. So I gave this 4 stars, and the only thing is that made me give it 4 stars is the ending. Just like 2 aspects, basically, that it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like it could be the beginning to another 3-book series very, very easily. It didn't feel like a lot was really resolved in the end, and a lot of this is based around this mystery of this Tower of Babel. So I did want some tie up of that mystery, but also the thing that hurt me like more emotionally, that I can't give it a higher rating, is kind of the end of a character journey that I just didn't love that much. Like, it's, I mean, if you've read the book you might know what I'm talking about, but it's basically the main characters and how they finish their story. It just didn't sit right with me. It didn't feel real. It didn't feel like how the characters would have behaved at the very end, and that just made me feel a bit upset, because then it is the very end of the book, and you know, they don't have any chance to then change that ending. So I was slightly disappointed in that, but overall I would still really, really highly rate this series. I absolutely love it, and just the very, very end is really disappointing, and I can just only hope that he's going to do another sequel series, and hopefully, sorry about that, my camera cut out, which is highly annoying, but I think I was just finishing off by saying I hope that we do get another series to be able to continue to unravel the mysteries of the tower. The next book I want to talk about is the book that we picked for our Reading Around the World book club, which, by the way, feel free to come and join. We do a book club on Fable. I host a book club on Fable for Reading Around the World, and every month we choose a new country that we're going to do we spin the wheel, and then we all vote on the country that we want to do out of 3. And for the month of August, we got the country of Georgia, and we have been reading the Pearfield. And I actually just did the live show last night to discuss with the book club on TikTok the Pearfield. And it was really fun to hear everyone's opinions. And yeah, this one was a really, really interesting book. It's based in Georgia. It's based around this school for idiots, is what they call it in the book. And it's basically a kind of a children's home for intellectually disabled children. And you're following the main character is Layla, who's 18. So she's kind of aged out of the school, but she's kind of still hanging around because she wants to protect some of the children that are still there, especially one boy. And yeah, it's very, very beautifully written, and I believe it's very, very beautifully translated as well from Georgian. But I think most of us were really in agreement around this one that it was just so sad and so tragic. Every chapter, there's only about 9 chapters, but every chapter something really harrowing and really sad happens. And it was quite relentless. And so kind of the beauty of the writing for me didn't quite make up for just how harrowing it was. And then also the ending, I won't go into that in case you do want to read it, but the ending also kind of left a bit to be desired for me personally. I'm really glad that I read it. I do feel like I know a bit more about Georgia as well, the country, which is kind of the big aim of this kind of challenge that I've set myself. And yeah, I'm really glad that I read it, but I think I gave it like a 3.5 or like a 3.25 stars, I'd say. Oh my god, my voice is literally hurting. Like I need some water because I've just been talking constantly. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is the classic that I tried to read for this month, and it is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Gaston Leroux. I don't know. I should never try and pronounce things because it's terrible. I won't go into the plot of this because I feel like it's quite well known. And I did not like it that much. I thought I would like it more. I really liked the play, the actual musical. I've seen that before and it was really beautiful, and I like the movie. I just feel like actually this one does translate better to seeing it on a stage, because obviously a lot of it is based around music, and so I did feel like I was kind of missing out a little bit on actually reading the book. It wasn't bad in any way, it was just like a 3 stars for me. I thought I would enjoy it a lot more. So yeah, that's the Phantom of the Opera for me. But look at this like really cute little edition, I really like it. The next book I want to talk about is Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. I think this one is just lower down on the list for me because I had really high expectations for it, and I don't know why. I just thought going in that it would be this kind of one of my new favourites, and I kind of feel bad rating it low based on my own expectations, but it is genuinely how I felt. Not that this is a bad book in any way. This is a, you know, three star. It's a good book. The back of this book says, Kitchen is a tale about mothers, transsexuality, bereavement, kitchens, love and tragedy. You're mainly following this one character as she's kind of going through her life, and she suffered a few tragedies in her life, and she kind of makes friends with these other people. She kind of entwines her life with these other 2 characters, and parts of it are really beautiful. And I did actually love like the kitchen and all of the food descriptions that are in it. I really enjoyed all of that, but just nothing, I don't know, I just really thought that this was going to hit me like a gut punch, and it didn't. So I think that's why it's kind of just like more in the middling side for me. I think it was really interesting, but I don't know. Give me your opinions on this one if you've read it. I really like to know if you loved it or if you were kind of disappointed in it like me. I'd really be interested to know, so let me know. But yeah, that's Kitchen. Okay, and the last book that I read this month, and my least favourite book of the month, was One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. I was really excited for this one because I really like Olivia Blake's other work. Well, I read the Atlas 6 and the Atlas Paradox. I really liked them. The Atlas 6 was one of my favourite books when I read it. And I was really excited for this one because it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in modern day Brooklyn. And it's kind of these 2 rival gangs of witches. And I was like, this is just exactly up my street. I'm going to love it. And I did still enjoy her writing, but this one just really fell down in terms of the plotting and also some of the character motivations. Just a lot of it didn't really end up making any sense, and also it's a really long book, or it just feels really long. I was kind of slugging through it, and I didn't really enjoy the experience of reading it that much. I kept thinking I was coming to the end of the book and I wasn't, and then by the end, like, I feel like decisions were made just to have a few really dramatic speeches rather than anything that made sense for the characters or like what they were trying to do or any of the plot in the first place. So I gave this one like 2.5 stars. I didn't really enjoy it much. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing for me. But really, out of the 14 books that I read this month, or 15, I think 15 books that I read this month, I've had an amazing reading month. So many of these have just been absolutely, like, I think about 50% of these have been like 4.5 stars and up, which has just been amazing, especially after last month. I didn't have the best time with reading. I had like a few that just were quite disappointing. This feels like such a relief after last month. So please let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.